Hometown Ghost Stories contains serious and often distressing events and is not intended for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
1942 was a strange year for the sleepy coastal town of Pascagoula, Mississippi. It wasn't enough that the whole country was on high alert from the bombing of Pearl Harbor, but they had something else to worry about, something strange and bizarre. A man was sneaking around in the middle of the night, creeping into people's houses, cutting off their hair, and then disappearing back into the darkness without waking anyone. I'm Dave Wilkins, and this is Hometown Ghost Stories, Dark Mysteries, The Phantom Barber. After the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in 1941, the whole country was on high alert, and the quiet fishing town of Pascagoula, Mississippi became one of the major defense manufacturing centers in the United States. Ingalls Shipbuilding became the state's largest employer as they received a military contract to build ocean barges to be used in World War II. Come June of 1942, the town was busy as ever during the day and quiet at night. That's when a peculiar prowler with a strange fetish decided to strike. The first two victims of the nighttime barber were Mary Evelyn Briggs and Edna Marie Heidel. The two shared a room in Our Lady of Victory's convent. The two woke just in time to see a man crawling out the window. Mary was the sole victim to give a description of the perpetrator. She was quoted on page 9 of the Greenville News. Quote, "I saw a kinda short, fat man bending over me with something shiny in his hand, and he was fooling with my hair. When he saw me open my eyes, he said, 'Shh.' I yelled, and he jumped out the window." End quote. A few days later, 6-year-old Carol Peaty, who shared a bedroom with their twin brother David, awoke to find a good amount of her hair was missing. The screen on her window was sliced open, and her brother's hair was left untouched. The people of Pascagoula were certainly uncomfortable with the idea of a man sneaking around cutting their hair at night, but at least nobody was being harmed at that point. The intruder didn't injure these girls. His break-ins consisted of slicing open the window, sneaking into the room undetected, cutting off hair, and then sneaking back out before anybody awoke. He did occasionally leave behind footprints, but it wasn't enough to secure his identity. Attempting to try and identify this elusive barber, police put out a $300 award that would hopefully lead to his capture. He also gave pistol permits to 6 volunteer officers and put the rest of the department on high alert. That's when the incidents went from bizarre to brutal. On the night of June 13th, Mr. and Mrs. Terrell Heidelberg were asleep in their home. That's when an intruder sliced their screen and crept into their home. But rather than cutting anyone's hair, the intruder proceeded to beat them both with a metal pipe. The beating was so bad, it knocked Mr. Heidelberg completely unconscious, and Mrs. Heidelberg had several of her front teeth knocked out. Police in the area theorized that the attacker was none other than the Phantom Barber. But others weren't so sure. The modus operandi was not even close to that of the Phantom Barber, besides the sneaking in the middle of the night and cutting the screen. Aside from that, nothing was the same. The residents of Pascagoula began to panic, and the men who were supposed to be working night shifts building warships weren't showing up for work, opting instead to stay home to protect their families from this nighttime prowler. This ratcheted up the pressure on the police department to solve these crimes, and the rewards were raised from $300 to $500, with Ingalls Shipbuilding kicking in an additional $100. Not long after that, an adult woman named Mrs. Taylor also fell victim to the Phantom Barber. Her account led to suspicions that the criminal actually used chloroform to keep his victims asleep while he cut their hair. As reported in the Tribune on June 24th, 1942, Mrs. R.E. Taylor reported 2 inches of her new perm had been shorn by the strange shearer while she slept in her bedroom with her husband and their 2 daughters. Quote, "I had a vague feeling of something passing over my face, then woke up and felt ill," Mrs. Taylor said. The tonsorial artist had broken through a window, cut her hair, and fled. Previous victims of the Phantom Barber, all within the last 10 days, were 3 little girls. Police believed he used chloroform to keep his subjects asleep while he snipped their locks. About a month later, police believed they had enough evidence to arrest a suspect. 57-year-old German chemist named William Dolan was arrested for the attempted murder of the Heidelbergs. The police believed he was a German sympathizer, whose motivation for the crime was to impair the morale of the war workers. Dolan also had a disagreement with the Heidelbergs prior to the attack. Apparently, Dolan had a grudge against Terrell Heidelberg's father, a local magistrate who refused to lower Dolan's bail in regards to an unrelated trespassing charge that happened months prior to the Phantom Barber incidents. After Dolan was arrested and charged with attempted murder, police searched his home and found a mysterious bundle of severed hair. This led them to believe that he was also responsible for the break-ins and the hair theft. They were unable to make those charges stick, though, because they had no way of proving that the hair actually belonged to the victims, since there was no DNA testing at the time. Dolan, however, was sentenced to 10 years in prison for the attempted murder of the Heidelbergs. So, pretty cut and dry, actually. Not much of a mystery at all. Dark, sure, but mysterious? Yes, actually, because that's not where it ends. Not surprisingly, William Dolan staunchly professed his innocence, and he was never convicted of the late-night haircuts. Several years after his conviction, the case was reviewed. Many questions surrounded the case, and people suspected Dolan was a convenient scapegoat for an increasingly desperate police department. Dolan passed a polygraph test, and Mississippi Governor Fielding Wright suspended his sentence. In 1951, Dolan was released from prison. While the opinion on his guilt still remains very much divided, the case of the Phantom Barber is technically still unsolved. So what do you think? Stick around as Jesse, Rob, and I discuss the mysterious and frightening case of the Phantom Barber of Pascagoula, Mississippi. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Hometown Ghost Stories Dark Mysteries. That was the Phantom Barber of Pascagoula. I'm Dave Wilkins. I am joined, as always, by Jesse Wilkins. What's going on?
What's going on?
And also, I'm joined by Rob Coakley.
Let me sniff your hair. Let me sniff it right now.
Please don't. Rob Coakley, also from the area of Pascagoula, Mississippi. Isn't that so?
Yeah, I actually grew up in the town right next to Pascagoula in Goshen, Mississippi. Was born up here, but moved down there.
Let's get this out of the way. Where
were you
in the 1940s?
Do you have an alibi?
Did not expect this line of questioning. Where is Ron Mesh Pressure where I need him?
What a strange story. And it's one that, when you're going over the details, you do find it kind of funny, but it's also very concerning. And then it gets a little bit more weird and then violent, potentially. So it's a wild ride. It's a wild ride, this one.
Yeah, it is. And it does sound funny. That's what originally caught my attention with this story, as I was just looking for an interesting dark mystery to cover. And this one pops up, and I'm like, all right, this is wacky. Someone's just, what a weird fetish. Sneaking into people's houses and stealing their hair.
Mind your business.
Yeah, mind your business. This is so bizarre. You hear some weird fetishes. You hear people that, break into houses to do weird things, but I can't think of another one where people are stealing people's hair.
No, wasn't there one that he was breaking in and tickling people's feet?
Oh, the tickler. That's right. We haven't covered that one yet, but I'm sure we will someday. That might be weirder.
Well, that's
Well, that's a foot fetish, right? That's like people who have like that gross foot fetish. That
Right, but
that
you
others
think
have.
if you're sneaking into somebody's house in the dead of night to get your rocks off, however you doing so, tickling them is going to wake them up,
That's what I was about to
right?
say. It's
That's probably
more
not the
risky.
play. This case is so creepy because he was coming in while they're asleep, slicing the screen, creeping in the dark, cutting their hair, which is assault. He wasn't hurting the people, but that is assault. You can't cut somebody's hair off. And then sneaking out without them ever waking up, possibly using chloroform. Which,
Yeah, but doesn't chloroform take like 15 minutes to actually work? Like it's not like you see in the movies.
I have no idea. You tell me.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Mind your business.
I'm just gonna get some better grade chloroform, I think.
Yeah, I have no idea how chloroform works. Maybe something I should have looked into before,
They had to have looked in the obvious places, right? Like they had to look into local like people who made wigs and maybe someone who owns a doll factory where they might
It
need
takes
this
at
hair.
least 5 minutes of inhaling an item soaked in chloroform to render a person unconscious. I just got that
Wait,
information.
now,
and
were you-
now I
hang
have
on,
the
were you-
FBI coming to my house because I looked
Were
that
you?
up.
Yeah, that's true. Now, did you actually look it up, or were you just looking at the footage of your latest
I
attack?
was just don't worry about it. Just
All right, I'm not worried.
continue
I'm not
to not
worried.
worrying.
I'm a little worried.
Everybody
about it,
just
but I'm not.
relax. We're all trying to find the guy who did this.
Wrong. All right, so
well, the suspect they eventually settled on was a chemist. So maybe he knew how to make chloroform. Maybe he had access to it. So maybe he didn't need to go to the chloroform store to buy some. Maybe.
well, here's where it gets hairy.
Oh, damn it. It was such a good episode too.
I know. It was a matter of time.
All right, we'll catch you next time on Dark Mysteries. It's been real. So, what do you think? I don't think it was the guy that they arrested. I think I'm on team not this guy.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I also don't know if this guy, he might have been guilty of attacking the Heidelbergs because there is some evidence there. It wasn't all just hearsay. There was some.
Yes.
Damn it.
Yes. I actually like this color better, anyways. It's perfect.
Well, he had the motive, and he's had a history with this family in the past. And so it is possible that he was, I think, guilty of that crime, although he did pass the polygraph test, which we know now isn't a perfect science, but they used it back then as a perfect science. They thought it was. Either way, I also know that if you do pass a polygraph test, you probably are telling the truth. It's not admissible in court because you can beat it. But
so what makes you think that he doesn't make the cut?
I think that it was, in retrospect, too convenient. There was so much pressure on the police department to catch this guy because everyone was panicking, and that massive company that had the massive military contract now had a whole bunch of people not showing up to work because they're too afraid to leave their family behind because somebody's going around assaulting people while they sleep. So the company panics, and they're putting pressure on the police, and all of a sudden the police now have a guy that only kind of fits the bill, fits the MO. And they arrested him for the assault on the Heidelberg family. And they were like, how can we make this guy, how can we make this clear up everybody's concerns about this Phantom Barber? And they're like, maybe we need to find a lock of hair at his house. So I think it makes a lot of sense that the evidence was probably planted.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to convict him of the crimes. They just had to have the public believe that they got the guy off the street to get everyone to go back to work and to get everything to go back to normal. Now, the one thing on the other side of that.
So you're saying you don't think he wigged out and beat this family to death?
No, I think that he might have been guilty of that. I don't think that he was guilty of the Phantom Barber things. But after he went to jail, the Phantom Barbering stopped. So that, on the other end,
I have to change my position on that
detail.
If you can go back and just trim out when I said he was innocent.
Yes.
I mean, we're making a lot of jokes, and as we rightfully should, but it is terrifying, right? Like to think of like the personal space that is being invaded by someone breaking in, getting that close to you without you knowing, and cutting off your hair. Like waking up to that must be like what? Like I can't even imagine like the thought process of waking up from that. It's
Yeah,
gotta
the one story of the girl who did wake up and then saw like the little fat gremlin guy who just like saw her and then got spooked and hopped out the window. I don't know why I find that scene so hilarious when it's clearly a terrifying incident.
It is, yeah, it's just a little fat penguin looking guy waddling out,
Danny
jumping up this.
DeVito.
Just Danny DeVito. I know.
Yeah. Oh my
just
god,
Frank from Always Sunny. Always Sunny.
I could see him doing that.
Yeah, Danny DeVito, not his character. Just Danny DeVito would be doing that.
Just Danny DeVito. I think Danny DeVito's probably a pretty nice guy, but Frank from Always Sunny, I could see him doing this.
Yes,
definitely could see him doing this. Yeah, I just think that it was too convenient for it to make
for the police department. We see this in a few cases. You saw it in Velisca. You saw it in another side content episode that I think you did, Rob, where they're like, get someone to convict him now because we need the public to calm down. Yep. And this was, I mean, this is the 1940s, I think, but these things were going on where they would just grab up anybody, be like, all right, this is the guy. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Everyone go back to normal.
Yeah, you see it time and time again at this point. I think you're talking about the Cleveland Torso murders, where they brought the guy in and basically pinned it on him, and probably wasn't him. And you see it with like all sorts of cases, people wrongly convicted. They go back years later, finally get the DNA evidence or something, and it's like, oh well, sorry, we locked you up for 40 years. Here's $10,000 in a sorry, can't sue us. Bye.
Yeah, and to say, well, it was 1942, it wasn't that long ago. Would a government really be that ridiculous? This is the exact same time the U.S. government rounded up everybody who was Japanese and just put them in camps. Right. So I would say that it's not out of the realm of possibility.
And the other thing you brought up is Ingalls Shipbuilding, right? So that company today is still one of the most prominent employers on the coast of Mississippi.
It's still the largest employer in the state as of today. Yeah.
Right. So they still are massive there. And now you go back to 1940, they probably controlled the area at that point.
Absolutely.
Because there was probably nothing else there. So
exactly. And that's where all the pressure on the police department was coming from. And that's why they had to put an end to this case. Now, if there's a chance that they did get the right guy, and there's also a chance that they framed what they thought was the wrong guy and accidentally got the right guy. I think there's a slim chance of that, which is hilarious.
Yeah. The other option is they put this guy in jail and the real guy sees it and he's like, oh shit, they're close to me. I got to stop doing this so that they don't come in any further. There's already someone in jail. I'm off scot-free if I don't do this anymore.
Right. But how? If that's your thing, if that's your fetish, if you can't control yourself, maybe he moved.
Or he moved. Or maybe that was his out. He was like, I have to move now because if I keep doing this, they're going to come after me harder. So,
but yeah, I think that if you ask me, they got the wrong guy, and I do think they probably did get the right guy for the bludgeonings.
Yeah.
But I mean, this guy was going. His MO was he would sneak into somebody's house, cut their hair, and then sneak back out unseen without waking or hurting anyone. And then I'm supposed to believe that all of a sudden he breaks into the Heidelberg's house, and they were attacked with a heavy iron bar, knocked the guy unconscious, knocked his wife's teeth out. This is a very up close, very personal, very, very violent, and very opposite side of the spectrum from just sneaking in and sneaking out and being a weirdo.
Right.
These creeps that are like this, and there was a similar case, Jesse brought it up in the Velisca, where one of the guys that they got was just this creepy dude who was like, this guy is not capable of a violent crime like this.
Right.
So I don't think the MOs are such a big deal in cases like this. And I just don't think it makes sense that it was the same crime.
Yeah. Cause you would think he would just run away if he ran out the window when that one woman woke up. So let's say he was trying to do the haircutting thing to this couple and they woke up. It doesn't seem like his MO, to your point, would be to grab a lead pipe and just start beating them.
Yeah.
Right? Unless he was backed into a corner or something. Like
I don't think these two crimes are connected at all.
Yeah, no. I don't think so either.
the only thing that they had to go on was that the person sliced the screen open and broke in the middle of the night. So that, I think, without being redundant, I think that they took that similarity and they ran with it, planted the hair, and threw this guy in jail.
All right. I think this is the part of the show where we should just start getting into it. Jesse, what are your fetishes?
Just watermelons.
Yeah.
You? Same?
I can tell you what my reverse fetish is. Do you want to get into that? I don't know why this episode.
Well, I know what your fetish is. It's sneaking into people's houses and cutting their hair off in the middle of the night.
We established this.
But only in the 1940s. Like time traveling is how
people change. People change.
What are your fetishes, Dave?
My fetishes are what is to take any amount of spare time that I have in my life and fill it with researching stuff for this podcast. Just 100% of my spare time that I have, I like to just research weird, peculiar things like torso murderers and phantom barbers that sneak into people's houses and steal their hair at night. My family will be like, Dave, do you want to come spend time with us? And I'll be like, no. Have you heard of this serial killer? And they worry about me. So that's my fetish.
I think that's pretty common. There are loved ones in family that are somewhat concerned. Like my wife straight up doesn't tell my mother-in-law when we're traveling to do something for this show. And she'll just make up excuses for me. I'm like, why don't you just tell her what I'm doing? And she doesn't. She's like, yeah, Jesse's spending time with his other family in Pennsylvania. I'm like, I think that's considerably worse.
He's
run with it.
Just having an affair.
Nothing to worry about. He's on trial for murder. He'll probably beat it again, but he's got to go down to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Concerning stuff. Let's thank our patrons real quick. We have Allison V, Garrett, Jeannie R, Lisa J, Mike Oubliette, Blake, Mom and Pops W's, Peach Smoothie, Robert H, Demon King, and Inspires Gaming. Those are our VIPs. They are legendary. Thank you so much. We have 32 DRC, Ambi Rose, Anna C, Chris C, Donnie N. We have Elizabeth Young, Lily, Jake V, Janice G, Marfire, Matthew T, Papa Squatch, Rachel B, Sandy C, Sarah Cook, Stephanie A, Sydney B, Al Capone, Anthony T, Brandon W, Brennan B, Captain McSlugs, Kath Q, Cody G, Hooska Castle, Huggy Bear, Joe R, Kiralee J, Mark M, Mariah M, Nuthouse Queen, Paul from St. Louis, Sam from Nepal, Sarah R, Scotty L, Solder, Flair, Soph, Hooper, Swanee, and the other Rachel B. It's as little as $3 a month. You can get your name on this list, ad-free episodes, early access to shows just like this, bonus content, exclusive Discord access to our private Discord channels, and $1 a month you can become a member on YouTube, unlock all the fancy new emotes. Pretty much new emotes every single week. So do that. Just do it. It's cool. Like it. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video if you like this content and want more like it, then do that.
If you subscribe to the $50 Patreon tier, Dave will sneak into your house and cut your hair off at night and then sneak back out.
Yeah.
As long as that's what you
want.
That's
my thing.
Rob's definitely never done this before. Anyways, anything else, gentlemen?
That's going to do it for me.
4.2 out of 5 stars for me, guys. Nicely done on that. We'll catch you on Tuesday. Brand new live episode. Until then, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. 5 stars. We'll read it on the show. Thank you, guys. Goodbye.
Hey everybody, Rob from Hometown Ghost Stories here. Wanted to thank you for checking out this piece of side content. If you really liked it, you can head over to Patreon, and for as little as $3 a month, you can get access to these a little bit early. Also, we are doing member-only stuff on Patreon, such as our History of Ghosts series, where we talk about like Andrios, Banshees. We let you know where they came from, their origin, some stories associated with them. It's a lot of fun. Until then, if you look over this shoulder here, you can find one of our earlier episodes. And if you look down here, we got another side content episode. Until next time, from Jesse, myself, and I guess even Dave, Thanks for watching Hometown Ghost Stories.